2011-12 which is the last data that we had, उसमें 29.5%, so almost 30% पॉपुलेशन इंडिया की गरीबी रेखा से नीचे थी। लेटेस्ट डेटा जो है 2023-24 में जब वही रंगराजन पॉवर्टी लाइन का एस्टिमेट निकालते हैं तो वो करीब 3.9%।
Dr. Shamika Ravi.
Dr. Shamika Ravi is a distinguished Indian economist.
I really go to the economy with a lens. So I think first it's important to recognize that we are on our pathway to 2047, but 2014 has marked a shift. Initially it started with the toilets in rural areas. We built close to 120 million toilets. The impact it has had has been transformational because हमारे public health indicators जो थे काफ़ी high थे. So toilets became an avenue of plugging that. A nation of our level of per capita income, in trying to bring about an energy transition and move to cleaner energy, is remarkable and unprecedented. UPI, I think, in India is the single largest repository of financial transaction data. And the kind of data it generates, which tells you how people spend money, who's sending to whom, for what kind, ticket sizes, so on.
It's a gold mine.
This is very important information to fuel AI applications and in the financial market particularly.
हमारी जो ग्रोथ स्टोरी है इसमें जैम ट्रिनिटी का बहुत बड़ा योगदान है।
बिल्कुल।
इनका क्या इम्पैक्ट रहा है हमारे प्रॉस्पेरिटी में?
Women and poverty are very directly linked. That if you look at 2011-12 numbers, overall हमारा poverty rate करीब 30% था. Women's poverty was close to 50%.
Oh, okay.
Today, by nature of not just DBT overall, but targeted initiatives, targeted schemes, targeting women is central. So today India has almost completely eliminated women's poverty. Even Rangarajan line अगर आप देखें, overall poverty is around 3.9, but women it's around 2%.
There is this emergence of a neo middle class. तो ये neo middle class क्या है और इनका क्या रोल होने वाला है आने वाले टाइम में? एक आपसे सवाल पूछूं मैं? जब से भारत को आजादी मिली है, हमारी सबसे बड़ी जंग क्या रही है? मैं बताऊं? गरीबी के खिलाफ जंग, है ना? अच्छा, अब जब हम अपने देश में देखते हैं, आसपास देखते हैं, तो हमें ऐसा लगता है कि ये जंग अब हम जीतने लगे हैं। एक सेंस ऑफ ऑप्टिमिज्म आपने महसूस की होगी अपने आसपास में। लेकिन क्या वाकई हम ये जंग जीत रहे हैं? इसका आंसर आप और मैं नहीं दे सकते, ये एक इकोनॉमिस्ट ही दे सकता है। इसलिए आज जीडीपी पॉडकास्ट में हमारे साथ हमारे देश के एक बड़े प्रतिष्ठित इकोनॉमिस्ट को हम लेके आए। एक ऐसा शख्स जो डेटा और लॉजिक को बड़ी खूबसूरती से पिरोकर हमें चीजें बड़ी सिंपल तरीके से समझाते। ये हमारे प्रधानमंत्री जी के इकोनॉमिक एडवाइजरी काउंसिल की मेंबर हैं और हमें बड़ी खुशी है कि आज डॉक्टर शमिका रवि जीडीपी पॉडकास्ट का हिस्सा है। डॉक्टर शमिका, वेलकम टू द जीडीपी पॉडकास्ट।
Thank you, Shah.
मैं आपको शमिका बुला सकता हूँ?
Please, absolutely.
ठीक है। तो ये एक चीज जो अब हम देख रहे हैं कि एक कॉन्वर्सेशन चल रही है कि भारत ने गरीबी को पिछले 10 साल में जिस तरीके से हराया है, ये अपने आप में एक केस स्टडी है, एक बहुत बड़ी अचीवमेंट है। एनेक्डोटली तो हम इस बात को सुनते हैं, हमें अच्छा लगता है, लेकिन एज एन इकोनॉमिस्ट आप ये बताइए डेटा क्या कहता है?
So, शरद, सबसे पहले तो ये जानना ज़रूरी है कि डेफिनेशंस पॉवर्टी के बहुत हैं
जी।
तो डेफिनेशन जो भी है उसको तो पहले सेट करना होगा।
बिल्कुल।
फिर उसी डेफिनेशन के बेसिस पे हम लोग देखेंगे कि टाइम वाइज क्या बदलाव आ रहा है। सबसे पहले हम लोग रंगराजन पॉवर्टी लाइन की बात कहेंगे, क्योंकि रंगराजन पॉवर्टी लाइन एक मॉडरेट पॉवर्टी का मेजरमेंट है
जी।
पहले तेंदुलकर पॉवर्टी लाइन की बात होती थी, उस पे काफ़ी पॉलिटिक्स भी हुआ था करीब 10-15 साल पहले। लेकिन तेंदुलकर पॉवर्टी लाइन में शरद सिर्फ फूड इनसिक्योरिटी की बात होती थी कि खाने पीने भर है कि नहीं एक आम इंसान के पास,
स्टैंडर्ड्स काफी लो थे,
बहुत लो थे। सिर्फ डेस्टिट्यूशन मीनिंग फूड। रंगराजन पॉवर्टी लाइन उससे कहीं आगे है, क्योंकि उसमें हेल्थ है, एजुकेशन है, रेंटल है, क्योंकि अर्बन एरिया में रेंट्स हैं, कन्वेंस है। तो आप देख सकते हैं वो जो बास्केट है, जो हम सोचते हैं कि एक हमारे यहाँ इससे कम आदमी को अब हम पुअर बोलेंगे, वो बास्केट हैज़ नाउ एक्सपैंडेड आफ्टर रंगराजन पॉवर्टी लाइन। तो अगर हम रंगराजन पॉवर्टी लाइन की बात करें तो 2011-12 विच इज़ द लास्ट डेटा दैट वी हैड, उसमें 29.5%, सो ऑलमोस्ट 30% पॉपुलेशन इंडिया की गरीबी रेखा से नीचे थी। लेटेस्ट डेटा जो है 2023-24 में जब वही रंगराजन पॉवर्टी लाइन का एस्टिमेट निकालते हैं तो वो करीब 3.9% है। वो एवरेज आप देख रहे हैं कि दिस इज अ इनॉर्मस
ड्रामेटिक शिफ्ट।
हाउ मेनी पीपल डज दिस अमाउंट टू? 302 मिलियन, मीनिंग 30 करोड़ से ऊपर लोग गरीबी रेखा से ऊपर आए हैं पिछले 12 सालों में।
एक जो हमारे माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी इस बात को कहते हैं, और ये एक कॉन्वर्सेशन है जो कई फोरम्स में होता है कि 25 करोड़ लोग गरीबी रेखा से ऊपर आ गए। तो इसको हम वैलिडेट कैसे करते हैं, और डेटा से हम इसको कैसे समझें इस आंकड़े को?
ये जो 25 करोड़ वाली नंबर है वो दैट इज़ बेस्ड ऑन अमेनिटीज़, जिसमें हेल्थ है, एजुकेशन है, क्वालिटी ऑफ लाइफ है, क्वालिटी ऑफ लिविंग, हाउसिंग कंडीशन के ऊपर। तो अब देखिए दैट इज़ वेरी मच बेस्ड ऑन क्या क्या अमेनिटीज़ एक आम इंडियन के पास है, which is a very supply side story that the government has made this available, and as per multidimensional poverty, जिससे ये 25 करोड़ का नंबर आता है, as per that metric 25 crores or 250 million people have come out of poverty in the last 10 years. लेकिन अगर हम ट्रेडिशनल पॉवर्टी की डेफिनेशन को देखते हैं तो उसमें सिर्फ सप्लाई साइड नहीं होता है शरद, सिर्फ अमेनिटीज नहीं होते, इट्स एक्चुअल स्पेंडिंग बाय द हाउस होल्ड, कि भाई सरकार के अलावा आप कितना खर्चा कर रहे हैं।
बिल्कुल,
दैट्स व्हाई द रंगराजन पॉवर्टी लाइन इज अबाउट मंथली कंजम्पशन एक्सपेंडिचर ऑफ एन एवरेज हाउस होल्ड ओवर एंड बियॉन्ड अमेनिटीज दैट आर अवेलेबल टू यू।
वही रियल मेट्रिक है एक्चुअली।
That is the traditional poverty metric. And that is why these numbers are so heartening. क्योंकि सबसे पहले तो it is publicly available survey based number. वो कोई सरकार अपने आप it's not pulling out of its hat. These are regular household consumption expenditure surveys that NSS National Sample Survey जो है हमारे यहाँ वो करते हैं. So it is publicly available, and to the youngsters who are listening to us, I would strongly encourage that you go and look at the MOSPI data. You please go download the MOSPI data, the National Sample Survey data, and you take out these estimates for yourself. Because India is a very large country, Sharad.
Yeah, that's true.
हम जब 302 million की बात कहते हैं, we are talking about a base of 1.4 billion people. Every state should have its own analysis. Every district should have its own analysis. Because the problems are no longer at an all India national level. हमारे यहाँ कोई भी social या development problem है ना, it's highly localized. So I would strongly encourage youngsters go and do some of this, replicate this research.
हमारी जो ग्रोथ स्टोरी है इसमें जैम ट्रिनिटी का बहुत बड़ा योगदान है, ऐसा कहते हैं। तो बड़े सिंपल टर्म्स में मैं ये समझना चाहता हूँ कि ये जो 3 इनिशिएटिव्स हैं इनका क्या इम्पैक्ट रहा है हमारे प्रॉस्पेरिटी में?
चलो, जैम ट्रिनिटी की जो बात होती है ना, वन इज अ गवर्नमेंट और अ सरकारी व्यू ऑफ थिंग्स एंड वन इज अ रियल इकोनॉमी व्यू। नाउ सरकारी व्यू हम क्यों कह रहे हैं? क्योंकि हमारे यहाँ गरीबी तो थी, बहुत थी, तो welfare has always been a very central part of governance.
Absolutely. Right from the beginning.
Right from the beginning. Garibi Hatao is something we have all grown up citing and talking about. Now, if that is the case, जो welfare architecture है, वो पहले ऐसा था कि लीकेज बहुत ज़्यादा थे, right? And उस लीकेज में by one estimate, of course Rajiv Gandhi's words are timeless, right? कि हम जब 1 रुपए स्पेंड करते हैं 85 पैसा इज लॉस्ट, वो सिर्फ 15 पैसा वो आम आदमी के पास आ पाता है, राइट?
वो हमने एक्सेप्ट कर लिया था उसको.
That is how things were, and therefore what is to be done, you know,
जी,
a fatalistic kind of.
जी.
But things have changed in the administration, क्योंकि what has happened is that the nature, the architecture on which welfare is based has completely transformed. तो जैम ट्रिनिटी की जो बात होती है ना, उसका पहला आउटकम इज डीबीटी, डायरेक्ट बेनिफिट ट्रांसफर, जिसमें कि नाउ एन एवरेज इंडियन डज नॉट हैव टू गो एंड स्टैंड आउटसाइड अ गवर्नमेंट ऑफिस. So the middlemen, including governments, have been
Eliminated.
taken out. And by one estimate, we are saving 1.5% of our GDP by doing DBT. Right? क्योंकि अब direct benefit transfer is reaching the household. But that is only enabled because you do have a bank account in which the money can come.
बिल्कुल.
आधार है तो टारगेटिंग भी हो पाता है,
बिल्कुल.
वैलिडेशन भी हो पाता है. And telephone, of course, is mobile is very, very important because mobile telephony has transformed the way business is done. So this is the Sarkari view of JAM, which now the numbers are telling us this is the extent of improvement in welfare, right? In fact, the World Bank and the IMF, a few years back, they came out with the statements that this is a logistical marvel, DBT. That's why many countries in the global south, जब हम बातें करते हैं, there is an expression of interest. Many of them are actively trying to replicate versions of JAM because it's welfare done right, welfare done economically, more efficiently, right? Then there is another side to JAM. और वो story we don't tell that often.
जी.
It has fundamentally restructured the Indian economy, Sharad.
वो कैसे?
सोचिए जैसे हम रोड्स बनाते हैं, ये फिजिकल जो इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर है, रोड्स जब बनते हैं, ट्रेन्स सपोज दे एक्सटेंड, उड़ान, ये सब फिजिकल इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर है जिससे कनेक्टिविटी बहुत बढ़ता है. जैम इज लाइक दिस टेक्नोलॉजिकल इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर which has been put in place, जिसके ऊपर न्यू सेक्टर्स हैव बीन माउंटेड. आपका सारा ई कॉमर्स,
बिल्कुल,
सारे डिलीवरी जो apps हैं of all kinds, they are all only possible because you have JAM today.
That's true.
Right? In fact, the fastest growing sectors in Indian economy today, if you start looking at pockets, health tech, ag tech, ed tech, it's all because you have JAM. So there is a welfare side of the story, which is an efficiency and a governance story, which I call the Sarkari view. And then there is the real economy view of JAM, which is that it has transformed the nature of Indian economy. There are new businesses, there are new ways of doing business, value creation, and it has crossed all sectors, right? So India is a transformed economy in the last 10 years.
जब आपके फेलो ग्लोबल इकोनॉमिस्ट से आप बात करते हो एंड उनसे इंडिया की बात होती है,
Right.
तो उनका नजरिया बदला है अगले लास्ट 10 years में अबाउट आवर कंट्री?
Completely. Oh, completely. First of all, that looking from the outside and trying to explain how things are in India. And there was, of course, an element of talking down and saying, हम बताते हैं कि आपको क्या करना चाहिए. That is now passé. वो अब नहीं. That's not common at all. In fact, there is an attempt by many institutions outside to now come and understand things here, to try and work with states, to try and look at data at highly localized level, because one, we have the capacity to do a lot of these
That's
things. अब हम इन हाउस ऐसे रिसर्च और टेक्निकल काम कर रहे हैं जिससे a lot of the things they were telling us and
हम फॉलो कर रहे थे,
हम फॉलो कर रहे थे, दैट नाउ आई थिंक नेशनल लेवल पर तो देर इज़ अ मेजर ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन. और ये आपने देखा होगा जो हमारी मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ स्टेटिस्टिक्स है, पिछले 3 वर्षों में इट हैज़ accelerated. If you look at the frequency of the data, the granularity of the data, which means आपको रियल टाइम जो इकोनॉमिक इंटेलिजेंस मिलती है किसी भी इकोनॉमी पे, that is now available. It's available to all of us.
वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग. टारगेटेड स्कीम्स का क्या रोल रहा है इन टैकलिंग पॉवर्टी, और 2-3 स्टैंड आउट स्कीम्स कौन से होंगे इफ यू वर टू पॉइंट आउट?
सबसे पहले तो targeting is a costly exercise. In the past, Sharad, जैसे by one estimate, we were spending 3 rupees for 1 rupee worth of grains, food grain transfer. तो आप सोचिए टारगेटिंग में किस रूप का कॉस्ट था. कॉस्ट इज लाइक अ डिफिकल्टी. वो कौन, हु इज एलिजिबल, हु इज. सो अगेन आधार होने से एंड दिस जैम होने से targeting has become much more efficient. We are in a position today to target. That means when we have the means to do it, मतलब अगर सरकार के पास वो capability है, resources पैसे हैं, we are able to build homes for people. So Awas Yojana is a massive transformation. उसमें भी targeted to women heads.
Yes.
So majority of the houses have gone to women heads. इससे it's not just an asset कि इस asset से फिर हम collateral form में लोन ले सकते हैं, business कर सकते हैं. It's not just economic. These are massive transformation at the society level.
That's true. It's a mindset change, actually.
It's a mindset because women own property.
Yes.
Right? Imagine the transformation. Then, of course, from a targeted perspective, Mudra, talking about small to graduating to bigger loans. Mudra के and livelihood promotion through subsidized capital.
जी.
उसके अलग अलग रूप हैं. जैसे बिहार में you saw जीविका.
जी.
Right? These are transformations. Massive. Because very small enterprises are being financed through subsidized credit. Right? When you look at whether it is the Kisan credit card, which transformed itself into now a much wider scheme, all of this becomes possible because now we can target to a very large extent, right? Of course, initially it started with the toilets,
Yeah.
right? In rural areas, we built close to 120 million toilets. जो सुनता है वो भी they are shocked at the extent of it. But we never tire of telling the story. I don't. Because, when you look at the impact of it,
Yes.
the impact, it's not a real estate project. Real estate is the simplest part of it.
That's true.
कि टॉयलेट बन गया. The impact it has been transformational because सारे जो शुरू के मोटिवेशन से कि भाई टॉयलेट्स क्यों बनाने हैं इतने, और कौन टॉयलेट बनाता है, कौन प्रधानमंत्री टॉक्स अबाउट टॉयलेट्स एंड शौचालय एंड सो ऑन,
जी.
इज बिकॉज हमारे पब्लिक हेल्थ इंडिकेटर्स जो थे, चाहे वो इन्फेंट मोर्टालिटी के फॉर्म में, नियोनेटल डेथ्स, maternal deaths, infectious diseases, waterborne diseases, ये सब काफ़ी हाई थे. So toilets became an avenue of plugging that fecal matter should not find its way into food and drinking water, so building toilets is very important. But over time, when you start analyzing impact, toilets are not just about health and hygiene, they are. But it has transformed the lives of women and girls across rural India. Because the statistics on violence against women, assault, rapes, they have all drastically fallen as a result of building toilets. Now think of it, this is fundamental security and quality of life. Right?
Absolutely.
Not all of it gets pictured in simple statistics when we say that toilets बनाने से health outcome ठीक हो गया, हुआ. That has definitely happened. But it has transformed the lives of young girls and women. Because, people go out into the fields, used to go out in the evenings or early mornings when it's dark. And that's when, in isolation, they're particularly vulnerable. And that's when a lot of the attacks and assaults would happen. So, ये सब तो exposed. I'm sitting here, we are sitting talking about it. Right. But the data is very powerful. When you look at the impact of some of these schemes, the average Indian's life have transformed in ways beyond simple metrics of any kind can tell.
मैं आपसे बात कर रहा हूँ तो मुझे ये सेंस आ रही है, आप एक इकोनॉमिस्ट हैं, you've had such an fantastic pedigree, and then you join Prime Minister Modi's team, and some of these schemes that you talk about have been envisioned by him. It is not coming from any economics book, but it is coming from a different insight.
Yeah.
So, what is your opinion about the Prime Minister's style of economics, his understanding of economics?
It's very grounded in real problems, I think, Sharad. And that is where people like me, we find motivation, because his view, first of all, and the vision is not a budgetary vision. It's not year on year annual budget.
Input, output, numbers.
It's not. It's not an accounting view of economics. And I think for me personally, that is what is most appealing. Of course, he's our prime minister, and hundreds of millions of citizens put faith in him
Yes.
repeatedly. But beyond that, I think what he brings to the table, which is in the nature of the transformation, is what he aspires collectively for us is to become a prosperous nation. And prosperity not just defined in terms of economic prosperity, but also in terms of social prosperity.
More holistic.
More holistic and much more responsible prosperity, right? From a global perspective.
ये
We
थोड़ा
might-
समझाइए आप, ये थोड़ा समझाइए मुझे.
देखिए, we might be the only nation, Sharad, but we pull our weight.
That's true.
And that is because Prime Minister Modi believes, and now I think we all work hard to realize that, is that we cannot now develop the way the OECD countries developed before us. That would be very, very irresponsible for the future generations. So we are the only country which is aspiring and working very hard and spending hard-earned money on a green transition,
Which is tough for us.
which is expensive. Coal is so much
Easier.
cheaper and easier because it's available technology. So for a nation of our level of per capita income, in trying to bring about an energy transition and move to cleaner energy is remarkable and unprecedented. Right? It's unprecedented. And it's largely because we have a leader who has a much larger and responsible vision. One for the nation, and what does it mean for India's future generation. But the other is just, globally, we should be a responsible citizen to the world as well.
Another program which is very interesting, and I would like to know your opinion on that, is the Aspirational Districts program. इसका क्या impact रहा है और इसकी significance क्या है?
Aspirational districts, Sharad, का मतलब ये है कि देखिए, अब ऑल इंडिया लेवल पे इंडिया के बहुत कम प्रॉब्लम्स हैं, बिकॉज यू सी पॉवर्टी इज फॉलिंग, maternal mortality has reduced, infant mortality has reduced. Almost all metrics of basic quality of life at an all India level we have managed to do well. अगर आप SDGs देखते हैं तो 10 states of India have already achieved SDG targets आज नहीं 4-5 साल पहले. So all India level पे problem define करना जो है ना, it's a wasteful, it's an academic exercise. The real policy punch then happens when your problems are very precisely defined. इसलिए we have entered the realm of what I call precision policy making.
अच्छा.
That is not national, not even states. It's at a district level.
मतलब surgical strike करना पड़ेगा.
बिल्कुल, that is the right term. Your problems are localized, so the solution has to be localized. In fact, so much so now we have moved to what we call aspirational blocks program. Because an average district in India is 2 million people. So it's a very large entity, right? Our problems, even within districts, are now localized into few blocks. So targeting development indicators or development outcomes at a highly localized level means that we have to now not only narrow down the problem, but think of solutions which are highly contextualized. A solution in Tamil Nadu will not be the same solution I'm going to transplant in Meghalaya.
Yes.
Right? It will require, or Nagaland. I remember when I had traveled, Kifire, one of the aspiration districts, it was impossible to get through to that place. You had to take a chopper or something. And now you're seeing the roads are there, the remoteness, which is on account of underdevelopment. That we have very quickly managed to bridge that gap. No district in India today can be termed remote because connectivity is now excellent.
UPI का क्या role रहा है in the war against poverty? The velocity of money which is now coming into the economy, is it playing a role?
It's playing a huge role. सबसे पहले तो cash has its inherent risks. So moving to digital payment itself is safe,
Yeah.
right? Second is we have a very large migrant population within the country. We have millions of people who move from the eastern part, and you saw this after COVID when special trains were run so that people would first go home, and second, more special planes, and in fact, planes were run so that Bihari workers and workers from Jharkhand and all come back to our industrial belt. Now, that kind of movement of people means there are a lot of remittances domestically that happened. And UPI has facilitated a lot of that. Right? The other is real-time payments. Even if we look at it from a welfare perspective, digital payments has made real-time benefits happen. And इसका एक experiment जो हम लोगों ने document किया था, वो था बिहार elections of 2020. अगर आपको याद है, it was in the midst of a pandemic.
जी.
But the strange thing, when you analyze the outcomes of the election, almost all experts had said that this kind of hardship will mean people will turn against the government, anti-incumbency will be very high, and the results shocked everyone. When we analyzed it, then we realized that the poorer the households and the constituency, the more likely they were to vote for the sitting government. The more migrants in a constituency, the more they were likely to vote for the sitting government. What does that tell you? Well, first of all, it is directly linked to the kind of payments, the digital payments that were carried out in real time, within hours of declaring a lockdown, an emergency. So the hardship which we saw in the form of anecdotes, hardships to the, but it did not translate into the kind of upheaval, because certain degree of, that's what responsible electoral democracies are meant to do.
Absolutely.
That government is meant to assuage your problem, it's meant to soften the landing, it's meant to give you support when you need it. And digital payments has made all of that possible. So UPI is a very powerful tool. Now, of course, I'm talking in the rear view mirror right now. We have to see aage.
Yeah.
UPI, I think, in India is the single largest repository of financial transaction data. Data is new oil. You've heard this.
Yes, of course.
But it's crude oil. उसको data को information में translate करने के लिए, all that data in transactions, AI, it's a fundamental fuel for AI. So UPI and the kind of data it generates, which tells you how people spend money, who's sending to whom, for what kind, ticket sizes, so on. This is very important information to fuel AI applications and in the financial market particularly.
Okay, now I would like to come to a segment called Take 3. Yeah. So I'm going to ask you a question and would seek your response to that. तो पहला सवाल यह है कि मोदी सरकार की ऐसी 3 इनिशिएटिव्स जिनकी वजह से भारत गरीबी की जंग जीत रहा है.
DBT, I would say DBT. Because the rest are all facilitation, right? But the fact that this has all come together means it has had a direct bearing on people's consumption and therefore welfare. So I think we have to underscore that point repeatedly, Sharad. It's very important. Of course, as an economist, where I'm sitting, there is an entire list, right? You see that in the form of targeting women.
Yeah.
Women and poverty are very directly linked. That if you look at 2011-12 numbers, overall हमारा poverty rate करीब 30% था. Women's poverty was close to 50%.
Oh, okay.
And अगर you and I think like an Indian, तो हम ये जानते हैं कि घर के अंदर जब resource आता है तो सबको equal नहीं मिलता है शरद. At least नहीं मिलता था.
Of course.
पहले the men would eat और उनका consumption, उनके कपड़े, उनकी ज़रूरतों का पहले ध्यान रखा जाता था. फिर the children and then the women. So you see what is happening inside the household has a direct bearing on welfare and poverty of individuals.
That's true.
Today, by nature of not just DBT overall, but targeted initiatives, targeted schemes, targeting women is central. So today India has almost completely eliminated women's poverty. Even Rangarajan line agar aap dekhen,
जी
overall poverty is around 3.9, but women, it's around 2%.
वाओ
So women are consuming, and we are so proud of it. But the other idea is when women rise, when women have resources, it translates into better outcome for the family,
यस
right? So we are seeing that in the outcome of the children, height and weight of children, educational outcomes of children.
रियली ये भी डेटा बता रहा है
Absolutely.
वाओ
So you see, targeting women, it is a policy of the administration. For a lot of our welfare schemes, we do target women. And so DBT, of course, as an instrument, but the way, the process of doing that by targeting women, I think that is it's a revolutionary change. It's a quiet, silent revolution, but it has transformed society, right, for the better. And the third, I would say, Sharad, and I don't know how to word it, I'll try, is the motivation. Is now you're aiming bigger.
you're dreaming big
You're dreaming big. And I think that is so fundamental to making some of these achievements happen in real time because you want a better life. For the first time, we are talking about quality of life in India. We used to only talk about Garibi Hatao, destitution. That's why a lot of effort is going towards saying economic growth chahiye and quality of life bhi chahiye.
दोनों साथ चलने चाहिए
दोनों साथ चाहिए. So I think raising aspirations is the third. Relatively not well measured, but it is everywhere. It is in every sector of the economy, every cohort. Whether you see women, you see youth,
Yeah.
young people associate very closely with Prime Minister Modi.
That's true.
Right, and that I think has largely to do with the fact that young people look ahead, old people look behind.
yeah and they resonate with his energy
Absolutely.
मोदी सरकार की वो 3 इनिशिएटिव्स जिनसे इंडिया में नारी शक्ति को सबसे ज्यादा उड़ान मिल रही है
One, I will go back to the silent revolution. The silent revolution where I call it a virtuous cycle that Indian democracy is going through. Globally, Sharad, ये देखा गया है कि 2006 के बाद democracy is in what experts have called recession. Democracy after democracy have faced decline in democratic values.
That's true.
That's what they call democratic recession, not India. Right? In India, we are seeing, if anything, further strengthening of democratic institutions and values, largely because it is on the back of women voters who have transformed the way Indian democracy functions. Now, why do I say democracy? क्योंकि हमारे जो public amenities हैं, सरकार के जो priorities हैं, all of that is largely determined by voters, no? It's the voters who set aspirations
That's true.
and demands of the government, and the government responds. The virtuous cycle right now is that the women are demanding more and more, and you have an administration and a prime minister who recognizes it, and it's basically a virtuous cycle.
Absolutely.
The two reinforce each other.
That's true.
And that is why across religious lines, across states, across linguistic lines, age groups, why do women support this administration so vociferously? Security.
Absolutely.
So men and women, voters and citizens, they expect different things from the government. And I think, as in the previous section we spoke, women, when you take care of their needs in the form of basic safety, basic resources to run household, etc., it transforms the society, it helps the children. So I think one is the silent revolution. Second, legislatively, if we speak, the Women's Reservation Act now, right? The Women's Reservation Act, remember Deve Gowda in 1990s tabled the bill in the parliament. Repeatedly, it was rejected.
That's right.
Rejected by many of the parties who are there today also. But what happened that when it was tabled under Prime Minister Modi, almost unanimously everyone agreed. So obviously the ground beneath us has shifted.
Shifted.
अब कोई आगे बढ़ के ये नहीं कहेगा कि we are against this bill. And we know there are many parties.
Yes.
वो सारी parties आज भी हैं. But now
But they
everyone,
realize that
They have
अब उस रास्ते नहीं चल सकते.
नहीं चल सकते, नहीं चल सकते. So it's a great bill
Yes.
because what it does, again, for Indian democracy, which is very different from Europe, let's say, in European countries, they're struggling to increase the number of MPs in their parliaments. Because just like increasing board membership in corporate finance, if you look at it, the biggest argument against that is कि आपका pipeline कहाँ है? आप 40% कर देंगे, 30% कर देंगे, लेकिन वो leaders हैं कहाँ? In India, that's not a problem. Because in India, we have had the Panchayati Raj institutions, always, which has had first 33% and now 50% women sarpanchas. So at the village level, you have millions of women who are already leaders.
There's a rich funnel.
It's a rich funnel. The pipeline is there.
Yeah.
It was about creating, conditions at the parliament and the assembly level. So we have a very rich pipeline of women leaders who are ready to fill that 33%.
So encouraging. 3 things that every young Indian should do to become more powerful and more prosperous.
That's a great question, because for the first time, I must admit, the question is flipped. What should an Indian do, right? We are usually thinking of supply,
Yeah.
and you don't think of as individuals. Frankly, align yourself with the national goals. India's rise economically and socially, what is happening today, is unprecedented, right, in modern times. It's happening on the back of youth. We are a young country. Our median age is 29, 28.7 or something. We have another several decades of window when we can make this happen. So young people have to align themselves with the national goal, the promise that we have set for ourselves, by basically going back to what are the duties
Absolutely.
that we are all, of course, constantly talking about rights, as we should. But I'll tell you, no country in history of mankind in the world has grown without a citizenry which is, enlightened and aspirational and disciplined and hardworking. So there is a sense that much can be accomplished if individuals align themselves with the national goals.
There is this emergence of a neo middle class.
Right.
तो ये neo middle class क्या है और इनका क्या रोल होने वाला है आने वाले टाइम में?
देखिए, because poverty levels are falling, middle class as a body is expanding, right? Many more people are coming into middle class. It's important to understand that India's growth, a large part of it is fueled by domestic demand. Again, when we compare ourselves with China, China's GDP today is 4.5 times India's GDP. So simple terms में जब लोग सोचते हैं तो per capita GDP देखते हैं
बिल्कुल.
कि भाई population आपने deflate कर दिया. But even then, in per capita basis also the Chinese are almost 5 times richer than us. But that's not all. You have to really look at the data more carefully to understand that the household consumption or private consumption of Chinese is only 1.5 times more than an average Indian.
वो बस इतना ही है.
That's it. So consumption component जो है ना GDP का, which then determines कि भाई households के पास resource है कितना, वो क्या consume कर रहे हैं. बाकी GDP is with corporations and with the state, with the government. In India, 70% of our GDP is consumption.
तो देश की तरक्की के साथ साथ लोगों की तरक्की का जो इंडेक्स है वो
it's very high.
Very high.
In the Chinese case, it's only 30%, right? So that helps you understand that ये जो middle class है, जहाँ हम welfare की बात नहीं कह रहे, we should supply basic public goods and our cities have to become more livable, and we are now almost realigning our big infra push away from intercity connectivity, etc., which you saw in the last 10 years. Next 10 years are only going to be about urban, because urban has to be improved. Most Indians live in urban areas,
That's right.
But consumption is almost like a strategic element to India's growth and development. Therefore, a lot of the global turmoil जो होते हैं शरद, wars हो रहे हैं, pandemic, of course, it was, we also suffered, but we came out.
Yeah.
Better than most.
हमारे इंटरनल डिमांड जो है वो सबसे बड़ी ताकत है
It's
हमारी.
very important, right? So a lot of the reforms, economic reforms also that we have brought out or that we are still continuing to do, it targets the domestic market. Because our domestic markets, while being strategic, the nature of the economy is such that our firms, our suppliers, our producers have to be made more competitive, right? We need better things now. We have also tasted blood. That is what it means. That Indian consumers now demand more and better quality things.
ग्रेट. अभी इकोनॉमिक एडवाइजरी काउंसिल की एक लेटेस्ट रिपोर्ट है, चेंजेस इन द ड्यूरेबल गुड्स ओनरशिप इन इंडिया.
Yeah.
अभी जस्ट रिसेंटली आपने
Yeah.
पब्लिश की है. तो इसके क्या की टेक आउट्स हैं?
देखो, ड्यूरेबल गुड्स होते हैं जो एसेट्स
जी.
के फॉर्म में होते हैं. क्योंकि जब एक नेशन पॉवर्टी से उभरता है, पॉवर्टी में ज़्यादा खर्चा आप खाना पे करते हैं, खान पान पे करते हैं,
सर्वाइवल.
basic survival. So until 10 years back, more than 50% of our consumption expenditure was on food. Now in rural and urban areas, it is significantly lower. बल्कि in urban areas it's around 35%.
तो इसको हम कैसे रीड करें?
इसको, the way to look at it is that we are becoming more affluent. We are
तो हमारा पाई बढ़ रहा है.
पाई भी बढ़ रहा है, लेकिन पाई के अंदर जो शेयर भी है, नाउ इट हैज मूव्ड अवे फ्रॉम फूड टुवर्ड्स ड्यूरेबल्स एंड कंज्यूमेबल्स. तो ड्यूरेबल्स में हम ये देख रहे हैं कि सबसे पहले तो रूरल अर्बन में कन्वर्जेंस हो रहा है. जो चीज़ें रूरल एरियाज में कंज्यूम हो रही है, दे आर सिमिलर इन अर्बन ऑल्सो, विच मीन्स योर रूरल हाउस होल्ड्स आर नॉट
They are not
behind.
laggards anymore.
No. In terms of quality of life and what they spend their money on and the kind of assets they own, whether it is phones, refrigerators, washing machines, automobiles, there is a convergence. There is a sharp convergence. So that is one, rural urban mein. Second is, there is a very rapid convergence between the bottom 40% and the top 20%. Automobiles mein to now it has almost converged, right? Urban and rural again. So you have to look at it across different segments to understand what is the nature of the evolving market, right? It also helps you understand that हमारे producers, what are the segments in which they are becoming more competitive, right? Which are the growing segments? Consumption कहाँ बढ़ रहा है? And the reason is, usually जब आप economic newspapers खोलते हैं या budgetary differences year on year पढ़ते हैं, you are looking at very narrow windows. कि क्वार्टरली रिपोर्ट देख लिया कि भाई इस साल थोड़ा घट गया तो बहुत परेशान है, इस साल बम्पर हो गया बहुत खुश हैं. Those are important from financial short-term perspective, but long-term structural changes in economy are important for policy making. And we know now that an average Indian is spending more money on consumables, health, education, travel, than they are spending on food and durables, right? So these kind of changes are very important. It also has direct bearing on how we are going to measure inflation. पहले तो प्याज का दाम बढ़ गया, टमाटर का, so we would all be very, अब क्या होगा? Not anymore, because those weights are coming down. It also tells you, Sharad, that food security in India has been achieved. If you just look at the kind of things people are eating across the country, your households are eating more fresh fruits. More than 90% people.
Oh.
Fresh fruit is not like food grain that I can save in FCI godowns for months. Yes. Fresh fruits availability throughout the country and throughout the year, January to December, more than 90% people are reporting that they are consuming. It means your back end, जो logistics supply chain है,
वो भी robust हो गई है.
is robust. Things are available. That's why people are eating. And of course, people can afford
it.
Because no government scheme is handing out fresh fruits, right? Similarly, if you look at milk and milk products, consumption has increased a lot. If you look at fisheries, one of the fastest growing sectors of the agriculture sector. If you look at eggs and meats, etc., these are all very rapidly growing. And this is telling you that even within food, first we moved away from food, but even within food now we are moving rapidly away from carbs and simple food grains to more,
healthier options.
Healthier options.
And we are evolving as consumers.
Absolutely.
एक बात जो मैं आपसे पूछना चाहता हूँ, इस पूरी चीज से मेरे को तो ये समझ में आ रहा है कि ये जो सबका साथ सबका विकास सिर्फ एक स्लोगन नहीं है, ये एक्चुअली डेटा भी इसी की तरफ पॉइंट कर रहा है कि हमारे शहर और हमारे गांव सिमिलर कंजम्पशन पैटर्न्स उनमें आ रहे हैं,
yes.
एंड एवरीथिंग इज कन्वर्जिंग.
Yes. Sabka Vikas, I think, in a democracy, it tells you that growth cannot be exclusive, right? And to spread growth, of course, you need welfare schemes, which targets your bottom 20%.
जी.
But that is not all. It cannot just be about welfare, right? Inclusive growth should mean that people across the country of different income status or consumption class should have, their quality of life should be improving, and that is what data repeatedly reinforces, that indeed sabka vikas ho raha hai. There are elements we still need to work on,
Of course.
but it's overwhelming that every segment of India's society, of course, a lot of media, international media in particular, are very interested in inter-religion, interstate differences. So it becomes important to also then showcase and look at that data. One thing that stands out, 10 years back, Sharad, urban areas mein Muslim households poverty rate was 40%. All India was 30. Muslim households in urban areas
40 था.
40% tha, right? Today there's virtually no difference between Hindu and Muslim households in urban areas.
Wow.
It's all around 5%, right? If you look at tribals, amongst rural areas, scheduled tribe households ka poverty was more than 50%. Today it's down to 10%.
These are phenomenal numbers.
So that is what Sabka Vikas is there in the numbers as you see it on the ground.
ये आपने सबका विकास की बात कही. एक हमने स्टैंड आउट अचीवमेंट इस गवर्नमेंट की देखी है, वो नक्सलिज्म को जिस तरीके से टैकल किया गया. तो ऑफ कोर्स ऑन द ग्राउंड फ्रॉम एन सिक्योरिटी स्टैंड पॉइंट बहुत सारे मेजर्स हुए, बट फ्रॉम एन इकोनॉमिक स्टैंड पॉइंट, what are the interventions that have been done for successfully tackling this issue?
You see, as an economist, my primary question when I started to look at this was the states or the districts where you had high instances of Naxal activity or violence from Naxals. There are many districts which are a lot poorer than those districts. Neighboring districts, but you didn't see an uprisal there. You did not see this kind of Naxal activity. So that leads you to an economic and an institutional question, that why is it that this nature of activities have existed in these areas?
These belts.
Is it poverty then? Because that is the common narrative which I have grown up hearing in India, that poverty is the reason why people take up guns against the administration. The data unequivocally, Sharad, tells you poverty is not the driving factor, right? There are lot many poorer belts, areas, jahan pe violence is not there, right? So then you begin to look at institutionally that what happens, what are the factors. So when you run the data, you run the analysis, then you realize, first of all, there is a supply of Naxalism also. There is ideology at the back, which is actively promoted, which is actually funded. This is a campaign. It's not something organically that emerges. Forest cover in the data comes out as an important predictor, because forest cover also tells you these were areas difficult for the state to reach.
Yeah.
But with better connectivity, what has happened in the last 10 years, you have 100% electrification, you have much better roads, right? You have piped water and so on and so forth, housing, school, many aspects of it, which means connectivity and access. Or if you see in the reverse, remoteness as an excuse or a rationale for Naxalism. That is not true anymore. No area is remote, as I said.
Yes, absolutely.
And what that does is, first, the people who have supported these activities, they are also building greater trust with the state.
That's right. And they're
Because
questioning now.
They are questioning because the state is supplying what it was supposed to do. So, Naxalism, while definitely a security issue, there is an institutional aspect to it, that there is a supply of Naxalism from these ideologues, but there was also a demand because of governance failure, right? And the more the government becomes present in form of making lives more comfortable or less treacherous, the better the trust between the state and the citizens. So now you have active support for state administration, basically, or overall government apparatus to remove Naxals and the kind of uncertainty and risk that they brought with themselves. So I think ordinary people's support for this kind of movement has also, it's dwindling very fast.
So now we'll move to the young audience questions. So I have some videos that I'd like to play for you.
My question to Dr. Shamika Ravi is, how do we stay objective when the data says something different from popular opinion or media narratives? Thank you.
That's a great question. Data is very powerful. I'm glad she asked that. देखो क्या होता है कि everybody has a lived experience. That I can say things are very good. You may say no, things are very bad. Data is relatively more objective to your or my opinion. So beyond anecdote and lived experiences, even if around you, if people disagree, the data, if it is large enough and representative enough, I'm likely to put my trust in that. But having said that, making sense of data also means you should understand your context. क्योंकि data quality is also, कोई कुछ भी कह सकता है.
Absolutely.
So I think it's a great question from a young person that believe in data but verified.
Good evening, ma'am. In your fieldwork, have you ever met a person or a family who has changed the way you think about opportunity and poverty?
Oh, all the time. I think field work, there is no substitute. So while you sit in your office on the computer and you crunch these numbers, Sharad, there is no substitute for traveling and talking to people. And constantly in every field visit I have had over the last 22 years, 25 now, my view and my understanding has only evolved through talking to people. Let me give you a quick example.
Okay.
There was a very large ultra poor program that was run by the World Bank 20 years back.
Okay.
And
In India?
In India, but in 7 other countries.
Okay.
So this was a much larger study. And the expectation that the experts went in with was that we have an asset to give, so everybody will want it. Who refuses a free asset? You'll be surprised how many people did not want it.
Really?
Yes. And that just, it's humbling. I was a young graduate student then, and I was working with a larger team. But it was humbling that very many people said, nahi, mujhe nahi chahiye. I like my life the way it is, because it tells you that you are giving one asset, but you don't quite understand the context within which they are optimizing and living their life.
Yes.
Right? So field visits are must.
Good evening, ma'am. I would like to know that, do you think young Indians rely too much on social media for information? How should we balance it with real data?
Oh, what a great question. And one that, we can all say wishfully that don't rely so much on social media. But social media is also a very powerful tool.
That's true.
Let's make social media better by flooding it with genuine, credible, verifiable information. So I think for the researchers out there, if you're doing the research, learn and invest a little bit of time and energy in communicating it. Because communication is the tool of the future. We cannot wish it away.
Yeah.
So even though we are doing some very good quality work, if people don't have access to it, then the impact remains limited.
My question to Dr. Shamika Ravi ji is that, if you could redesign the way research is taught in Indian colleges, what is the first change you would make?
Oh my God. We could talk on this the whole day. Training is so important. Training is at the heart of the quality of research. It's not a uniquely Indian problem. Let me say that training of economics particularly, globally in the best universities. There is a reason I think faith in economists is eroding, and that is because we are seeing problems after problems for which we do not have explanation. But I think the right way to do economics is to go back to institutions and to understand a development beyond maths, beyond simple randomized controlled trials, simple inferences, that the better and the more mathy my approach is, the more secure I am in I think we need to educate people, train people. Methodology is very important. But so is the context, which means we need to train our young people in institutions, local institutions.
Okay, now it's time for a rapid fire round. It's called the fiscal fatafat round.
Okay. Fiscal fatafata.
Okay. Data or intuition? What wins more often for you?
It's always a combination, Sharad. 50-50.
One economic term you wish the world would stop misusing?
Oh dear, this is a tough one. Economics. Everybody and their grandfather today is an economist. But economics as a discipline is so much more. So I think economics, we should stop misusing economics and go back to core economics.
A policy debate that instantly wakes you up?
All aspect of India's growth and development.
Coffee-fueled research nights or early morning policy meetings? What's your vibe?
If I tell you that, you will know how old I am. It used to be midnights and late nights coffee. Now it's all early mornings.
A reform you think deserves more hype?
Oh, the labor reforms. Of course, it could be because it just happened. But my God, 50 years we have been talking about it. And now that we have finally done it, it's important to talk about it because it will be all our lived reality for the next 100 years.
One thing people get wrong about economists?
That they're very smart.
Paper books or digital reads?
Paper books. I'm old-fashioned that way.
Numbers or narratives? What shapes policy more?
Oh, it's a combination of the two. I think numbers are very powerful, but if you just have the number and you don't have the story, then you're not going to make a difference.
Last one. One global trend you think India will lead in the next decade?
Youth-led and women-led development.
It was an absolute joy to be in conversation with you. Thank you for
you,
your time. Thank you for your wisdom.
Thank you.
बहुत मजा आया.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.